Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. And today we're actually going to touch on a topic that I was having a discussion actually recently and watching a bit of additional content on in regards to how men approach and talk to women. So this is obviously a video trying to help out those guys out there who might have some issues when it comes to knowing the dynamics on how to approach and talk to women, whether it's in public or even online. Just a few little tips, nothing over the top, but just a lot of things that some your average guy may not realize in terms of developing those kind of skills. Because essentially, one thing that I always like to say when I'm having general discussions with a lot of my friends and whatnot and family is that, well, my male friends and family is that there's a line where if you're young, say in your teenage years, and you don't, there's a point in time where you're gonna try to talk to women, you're gonna get rejected, and either going to be one of those people who fall to pieces over time and go, I don't want to be a part of this world because I can't conquer it. And then you're going to be one of those guys who evolve, they develop, and they conquer it and get better at it. And what a lot of people don't know, especially women, don't realize is that a lot of men at that stage, if they don't, and when that line comes, if they don't learn to cross it and be good at it, then by the time, say if that happens when they're 15, when they hit 20, 25, they aren't going to miraculously just because they got older know how to do it. They will never have developed those skills. And at that point, it's just you get left behind. So for guys in the man space, they know that that's a real thing, and that once you don't learn that at an early age, there's a cutoff line where you almost can't learn it because what happens is you're always going to be at that level of your 15-year-old self once you get back into the game. So fine, you decide to get back into it. Say if you gave it all up, rejection had you becoming one of those guys who sits in the basement playing video games all day for the next 5 years. Finally, you decide, you know what? I'm 20 years old. I'm 21 years old. I got to get out there into the world. You're still going to have 15-year-old, your version, yourself, your old self, 15-year-old yourself experience level when it comes to talking to people. And so people will just assume, and especially women will assume, like, okay, like, shouldn't a guy of that age automatically know? But it's not that simple. And so this is a way, and for the men out there who don't get it, no woman's gonna care. They're just gonna move on to the next person and be like, okay, I'm not gonna deal with you. You don't know how to talk to someone. It is what it is. So this is just a quick video in trying to establish whether you've fallen off from that, or say if you have been evolving, but you feel like you can get a little bit better. So first off, we're going to start with attraction is key. So understanding your vibes with somebody first and foremost is the most important thing. You have to be able to read someone's vibes if they're kind of interested or not. And a basic simple way to understand that is you putting yourself in their presence, and just kind of seeing, like, one, if they try to move away from you if you're standing next to them, or maybe even throwing out little words or lines that are not about you trying to pick them up, but just lines, just general about your environment. Say if you're at the bus and you're like, say if it's cold outside, you're waiting at the bus stop and you're like, oh man, it's cold out here, and you say that to them. That's a little thing to pick up the vibes. Either they'll go like, like, yeah, or maybe they won't say anything at all, or if they have a smile on their face and they go, yeah, it is a long way to whatever the case is, or it's cold out here, whatever the case is, maybe the bus is taking long. You say, bus is taking real long, whatever the case is. Depending on how they respond, you'll be able to respond back and, may be able to spark up a kind of semi conversation. Now, I want to also throw out this important concept before we get into things that you can actually say and going deeper and deep into diving, like certain things that you could say in lines of whatever the case is the concept of breaking even. And I think I may have mentioned this in a past video, but essentially understand your market value. And this is not always easy, or at least understand your, how somebody's giving you certain vibes, and say to yourself, sometimes you have to break even. Now, you can look at a person as a man, you can look at a female, you can look at a woman and say, you know what? I know that this person looks like they've been approached by hundreds of guys today. I know that what I say to them is not going to break through. I know that I'm not going to get anywhere. So sometimes too, what you can do is, like I call it breaking even, is you aren't going to give them a heightened level of attention that they've already been receiving, but also you want them to acknowledge that you exist. So breaking even doesn't mean that you just ignore them. Breaking even is letting them know that you know they're there, but you don't care to pursue them. Now, what's the purpose of this in terms of, you know, like what's the point of doing it in terms of your interaction with a female? Well, it does a couple of things. One, it tries to even the playing field with the fact that as men, we're never going to change the game. It's always going to be men have to approach women, and that's always the dynamic of it. And women are the ones who control the reject or accept button. But sometimes, if you know that, you're not going to necessarily get anywhere with that person, at least it's a way of you, even though it's breaking even, it's for us, breaking even is almost the equivalent of like giving them a rejection, giving a woman a rejection. And it's not nothing negative and it's not something bad, it's not something harsh. But I'll give you an example of it. It's like you see somebody who you find very attractive and you might say something to them, along the lines of maybe you're sitting online, you're standing online at a store and you go like, um, maybe it's something you compliment on them, but not them necessarily, but like maybe they have a certain item in their hand. Oh, you're getting that. Oh, those things taste great. Say if it's a food or a product. Oh, that's a cool thing that you're getting over there. I see you're into that. Maybe it's something that could be like a hobby. So you're like, oh, I see you're into that. Okay, that's cool. That's cool. And they might smile like, yeah. And they're expecting you to now after the number because they're attractive, this and that, whatever the case is. And you don't. You don't do it. Why? Because you already know what the end result is. And it's not about you having lack of confidence. It's just about you assessing the situation and understanding this person is very attractive. I'm in an environment where I don't have necessarily the upper hand. It's not like, maybe, I see this person every day, like a work environment, and I'm building a bond with them. No, there's one quick moment. And right at this very second, I have nothing to go off of. They've been approached 100 times today. I'm just going to be another number. I'm going to be another 101. So at that point, what's the point? And once you understand that, you can say, but by me making that person known to them, making myself known to them, so they go, okay, cool. This guy just spoke to me, and I don't know what he wants. He probably wants to talk to me. He probably wants to get my number. He probably wants to whatever. You just say that line, and then afterwards, you just keep it moving. Not only did you kind of even the playing field or broke even and made them feel like, okay, like this guy didn't ask for my number, so I guess maybe he's not that attracted to me. Why is he not attracted to me? 100 guys already approached me. Why didn't he? Something's about him. So maybe that may, on a small chance, might cause them to say something back to you. But even if it doesn't, you didn't lose confidence because you didn't put yourself out there to get rejected. But then two, you you would have given yourself a confidence boost. You're gonna feel it. It may not seem like it, but you're going to feel it. The fact that you were able to say something and walk away. Because at the end of the day, if you didn't say anything, you were going to walk away anyway without saying anything. And there would have been no interaction anyway. You wouldn't have got a number anyway. So it doesn't make a difference to not get a number, but that you put yourself out there like, okay, I spoke to you, but unlike everyone else, I'm not going crazy. That is a tactic that I've done plenty of times. And like I said, it just really makes you feel better. It boosts your confidence and it gives you more confidence towards even talking to somebody and being social. Because essentially what happens is that now you go, you know what? Okay, there was no pressure. I was able to talk to them without that feeling of what am I going to say? What am I going to do? What if they don't like it? What if they get rejected? All you did was just say something and then you kept it moving. So that's going to allow you to keep doing that more and more. And the more you do that, the more you start getting comfortable with what you say. Now, when you see somebody and you're walking on the street, you're like, oh, look at that, nice shoes, or something like that. Or, yeah, you might comment something going on. Someone's like yelling across the street. Hey, man, look at that. Some people are crazy out here. And they'll be like, I know. And now you just had a little moment of a little kind of, back and forth exchange and you keep it moving. But it gets you so comfortable that you start being able to do it without a second thought. And you aren't viewing them as someone you're trying to target, but you're viewing them as just as training. You view them as training. So it's good in many ways and it creates a positive feeling for yourself. So definitely put that to work and try that. So now we're just going to kind of dive into the actual if you are trying to talk to somebody, and this is for in person, and we're going to also speak a little bit on some online tactics as well if you're on the online dating market or social, um, the social media market in terms of getting to know people. But when it comes to in person, there's two components of it. There's knowing your environment and the way you approach somebody, which is similar to some of the examples I just gave you when it came to breaking even and whatnot. And then there's also lines that don't make you feel rejected, which, once again, reiterating, is similar to what I just stated. So I'm just going to kind of retackle that same thing I just said. So knowing your environment, if you're just randomly walking the street, you see someone you like, to be honest with you, and this is to me, you may find, so there's levels. There's levels of guys who are so charismatic. They're so at the top of their game that they could be driving down the road. They see someone, they stop their car, or maybe they just from the window, or they stop their car and get out of their car, and they start talking to a female, whatever the case is. Which the truth is, not a lot of people can pull that off. In addition to that, maybe you're just happen to be walking on the street, and then you see somebody walking by, you're just like, "Oh, hey, yo," and you say something, whatever it is that you say to them to get their attention. Even that sometimes can be hard. So sometimes it's about knowing your environment and making your environment work for you. So if you're not good at that, you're not someone at that level, I would tell you, whenever those situations occur where you just see someone and you're driving in your car, don't even bother trying to talk to them in that way. Don't even bother to engage, because the truth is, it's not conducive to your success, that situation. So just leave it alone, and then it's better for you in terms of weeding out the situations that work for you and what don't say to yourself, well, I have the fear that I missed out and it wasn't, maybe it could have gone my way. 9 times out of 10 it wasn't going to go your way. And it's not about pushing negativity out there, but it's about being realistic, because every single time you're rejected as a man, you lower your confidence. It's almost like a credit score. When I don't know if you're familiar with credit, but when they check your credit score, your credit goes down. So the same way, whenever you approach a woman and you get rejected, your confidence credit goes down. And every time you talk to a woman and you don't get rejected, even if you weren't trying to get at them, but you just spoke to them and just had a friendly conversation and walked away, your credit line goes up. So your confidence credit goes up. So with that same concept in mind, understand the environment. If you have to jump out of your car because you see someone, don't bother with it. Now, there are certain times where you can manipulate that situation, where if you see someone, you like them, you're driving by, you can drive a little further, maybe come around the block, park. Now you get out, you start walking to put yourself in that environment so it feels a little more natural. They're not going to know that you've seen them maybe a block away, came back around and got out of your car, started walking near them. But that will change things up a little bit to make it a little bit easier. But even then, I would tell you, be cautious, because it's not easy, because you jumping out of your car and you don't got a line ready. Unless you got a line ready, your environment is moving now. So you can't really, if that person's walking, so you can't really use your environment to your advantage. So if you feel you have the skill level for that, you can try it. But I would honestly say, if you're not ready for that, don't do it, because you're going to probably get rejected. And it's just going to be, like I said, something that's hitting your confidence and taking you down a notch. You don't ever want to do that. Never use your confidence credit as a way of just throwing it out there, because trust me, it really goes a long way to keep your confidence at a high level, your confidence credit good, so you're confident. So I would say make sure the environment's in your favor. Now, if you are in a situation where you're in a store, you're in a place, wherever the case is, um, only talk. Well, one, know that the environment works for you. Know that the setup is, look at your environment, evaluate it. Are you in a store? What can you talk about? Like I just told you a moment ago, evaluating maybe something that they're purchasing. Maybe you're in that store and you're waiting a long time on the line. Maybe you're at the bank and the line is long, and you start saying, oh my God, every time I come here, the line is long, and they make go, yeah, blah, blah, and you start talking. Um, you know, use things like that to get it started, your environment. Now, when it comes to what you say after that, it really comes down to using lines that can never make you feel rejected. And this is key for anyone who is charismatic and social, and they have game and they know how to be social. One of the key factors is being able to talk in a way where you never feel rejected. And that is a really big thing. And a lot of people don't realize that. So you never want to go up to a person and you're asking them out. You're not asking specifically like, hey, listen, I like you. Can I get your number? How do you like them? You don't even know them. if you go and say, listen, you're beautiful. Yeah, that's great. But guess what? 1,000 guys already said that. So you're just one of 1,000. It doesn't mean anything. You have to understand that whenever you get ready to approach a woman, you have to understand she's already been approached 100 times in that day, probably 1,000 times by the end of the week. So what you get ready to say in terms of complimenting her, she's already heard it already. It means nothing. So you have to say a line that makes it where you will not feel rejected. This allows you to hold on to your confidence as well as the fact that you don't feel rejected. You don't feel like you put yourself out there, and it leaves that person feeling like, okay, like this person wasn't overbearing, wasn't creepy or anything of that sort. So, you putting out a line that is a line you can't get rejected for is just asking them things like, well, how's the day going? How's, complimenting something on the environment. Like I said, maybe, oh yeah, the weather is crazy today, whatever the case is. And then as you start talking, you get into things like maybe, yeah, oh, because I had planned, I was supposed to go do this today, but the way this thing's going, I'm on the line here and I gotta go to another place and oh my gosh, so much running around to do. What about you? And they might say, yeah, I got a few things, or maybe I'm not really doing much. And you're like, oh, okay, cool. Yeah, well, if I had some free time, I would just be relaxing also. And they might say, yeah, but if they're busy, then you reverse it. Oh yeah, no, I know what it's like, days where you're running around nonstop. Sometimes you just wish you had a day off, right? And they'll be like, yeah, yeah. They may laugh, and you say, cool. Like, do you have any days off coming up? And they might tell you, yeah, whatever the case is. Like, all right, cool. You know that? No, that's cool. And you might further then go into say, well, yeah, I'm free on those days too, so, I don't know, are you into like, what are some things you drink coffee, whatever the case is? They might be like, yeah, whatever the case is, or maybe no. And be like, yeah, well, I don't know. If you're down to get coffee sometime, we can get coffee, whatever the case is. It's up to you. And after that, you can keep it pushing. You know what I mean? You don't, sometimes it's just about throwing things out there and not closing it, and you're letting them close it. And if they don't close it, you don't feel rejected because you're like, I didn't press you for your number. They might sometimes say, like, women might say things sometimes like, yeah, like maybe we could do that. Like you'll literally hear women sometimes say things like that. Like, but yeah, maybe I'll see you around. See you around is a good and bad answer at the same time. It's good in the fact that if you set a line that is where you don't feel rejected, then if you said, yeah, we can get coffee sometime, and they go, yeah, I'll see you around, cool. Like you both had an equal exchange where you were just like, okay, you kept the push and that was it. Like you were not going to feel rejected. But if they actually want to go and do that, they'll be like, here, you can take my number. And they'll follow up with that. I just went off the top of the head with that, but you kind of get what I'm trying to say. Don't put out lines that make you feel rejected. Um, one time I did, just to give an example, one time, this is many years back, and I was in a club. This is years back because I don't really go to clubs anymore, but at all actually. But there's many years back, and I was at a club environment, and there was a female, and she had a bunch of friends with her, but a bunch of friends walked off, and then the one female was there, and I thought she was the most attractive of her friends. And I went up to her after seeing a few guys talk to her, and I said, listen, I just got to know, what was the craziest line that you heard tonight? Because it just looks so funny how all these guys keep coming up to you. And then she starts laughing, and she tells me some of the things that they said, and I'm just like, yeah, blah, blah. We start having a conversation a little bit. I'm like, yeah, I'm here with some friends, blah, blah, this and that. And I'm like, well, you know what? At the end of the conversation, I just said, you have a good night and take care. And that was it. And I walked off. I felt good. I felt good because I already know that person was approached by, like I said, so many people before. If they wanted to close the deal, seal the deal, because I already initiated the talking. So they had that comfort to say, because women never approach men. So you give them that comfort to say, I approached you. So if you want, the door is open. If they don't take it, they don't take it. But you don't feel rejected because you never said, oh, can I get your number or anything like that? You didn't do that. So you don't feel rejected. You just feel like, I had a little conversation with somebody and lighthearted, and it was cool. And I walked off and I feel good. They're left thinking, you say to yourself, they're left thinking, I didn't want them. I just had a conversation. They can't feel any other way beyond that, because if you really were like thirsty for their attention and whatever case is, you would have been like, can I get your number? And then they would have followed up with rejecting you. So you feel good in regards to that. But if they really wanted it, they would have asked for your number because you already opened up that door. So I hope that what I'm saying makes sense. You guys understand what I'm trying to say. And like I said, take the time to figure out some lines that you guys will use, look at your environment, assess it. Where every time you go outside, say to yourself, even if you don't talk to someone, say to yourself, what could I say? What could I use in my environment right now to talk to someone if I wanted to talk to someone? Say if you're standing next to someone that you're not even attracted to, but just say to yourself in your mind, what could I say to them right now based on my environment, looking at them, looking at what they're wearing, anything like that, that I could use to come up with something to say. And you have that in your mind. If you want, you could even say it to someone you're not attracted to just for practice. But the point is that it's to help you get better at it all and never make you feel rejected. So that's one. And I can see already the video is stretching long, but we still have to jump into the online content or the online social media content in terms of the dating world. So if you are on, say, a dating website or a dating app, obviously women do not hit up men, and men have to do all of the hunting, all the searching, all of the hitting up the women. And the women are getting bombarded with hundreds, even thousands of messages in a week or a day or whatever the case is, and they're just it's just generic to them. Hey, what's up? How you doing? You look good, blah blah, this and that. First things first, never talk about sex. Never compliment them on their beauty, on their looks, because they could get that 100 times a day. They don't need that from you. It does nothing. You're going to comment, not compliment. You're going to comment on something that you see on their page. So essentially, if they actually put, and here's how you could tell there's red flags for a person. If there's nothing for you to comment on, I don't care how good looking she looks. If there's nothing for you to comment on her page, do not even talk to her. Because to be honest with you, and if you're the player type and you're the over charismatic guy who's going to be able to tackle somebody like that, you're probably not even needing none of this advice anyway, because you already know what you're doing. You're going to go after what you're going after. But for the average guy who might say, like, okay, I want to know how to navigate this, I'm telling you right now, do not talk to someone who has no content on their page. So if there's areas where they're supposed to have written some kind of content, and they just have things like, um, I want to be taken care of, or I like gifts, or some stupid thing like that, money, but or something stupid, or I think I'm pretty, or something just stupid, a one liner. Do not talk to them, because that same level of content they put on their page is a reflection of who they are as a person, which means they have no content. And you don't want to run around just trying to um, hook up with women that have no content. And the reason why I say that is because if you're not that kind of guy who can do that, because you're not the most attractive guy, the most charismatic guy, you need an angle. And your angle is if they have content, because that's how you keep them interested. If you don't have that to go off of, it's really like a sinking situation. So don't even bother. So with that being said, if someone doesn't have any content on their page, don't even bother. You move on to the next one. But now if they have some content on their page, you comment on that. You do not comment on their looks. They could be very attractive to you, but you comment on something. If they say they're into some kind of hobby, they're into something that they like. Maybe they say, "Hey, I've been watching a series. Maybe like there's a prompt that says, what is it you're into, or what do you like doing?" They might be like, "I like watching movies, TV shows." Comment, "Oh, what was the last series that you've seen? What was the most last movie that you've seen?" Or maybe they like doing things. They say, like, "I like cooking this and that." "Oh, cool. What do you like cooking? Like, what's your best dish? Or what's your favorite type of food?" Comment on something that they can read and respond to. Sometimes they respond back, even if it wasn't their intention to, but they're like, "Well, I have this urge to answer this question because it's an interesting question," versus just someone being like, "Hey, yo, you look good." They're like, "Okay, this person actually put an interesting question." So I've been watching this series. I really like it. I want to respond to this guy to say, "Oh yeah, I've been watching this series. It's pretty cool. Like, I've been getting into it," and and whatever they go with. But the point is that now at least grabs their attention. So that's one thing. If there's something you don't want to grab a hold of based on the words that they're writing, you can go off something in their photo, but it can't be a compliment to the look. So say if in their photo they've got like a camera. "Oh, are you into photography?" Or maybe they are doing something in it. Maybe they're doing some kind of activity. You're like, "Oh, are you into that?" "Oh, I saw that in the background." Maybe you peep something in the background of the photo that they're not even paying attention to. They didn't even expect that to even be in the photo, and you comment on that. "Oh, I see that's in the background. Are you into that?" And maybe they aren't, but at least it establishes some kind of conversation, and it's not putting out there that all you care about is the looks. Now, granted, if they reject you, you'll never know anyway. But at least you feel good that you have a better shot, you know what I mean, than just your typical, "Hey, you look good." You got to understand they're encountering that 1,000 times a day. So it's like, do not just give them the same generic thing that they're already getting. Now, when it comes to online dating, if you get to the point where you actually are able to establish a connection, you guys are going back and forth with some kind of messenger, whether it's through the website or whatever the case is, or I don't know if you would have, if you got their phone number by that point, then obviously you're a little further along than than if you didn't. But let's say you're contacting through the app. Um, One of the things I would always suggest is, because you don't want to ever be someone's pen pal. And I think we all know that at this point. So I'm not going to dive heavy deep into that about you not wanting to be a pen pal, because some women will keep you there as just that pen pal, put you in a friend zone immediately just to get attention. And have you there. So when they're out and about and they have nothing going on, they can pick up their phone and hit you up. You don't ever want to be that person. So I'm not going to dive heavy into that. But what I am going to say is this. One thing that I would say is good to start off with is setting up your date, and almost like after the first 5 text messages or whatever the case is. So, and what I mean by that is you say things like, and this is regardless whether you have the phone number or you don't, because you want to pretend like, even if you're texting through the app, as if you have the phone number, you want to go straight for the kill, because you don't want to sit here and just be like wasted time. So you start off with a vague date setup. So after you're talking to them, maybe like, yeah, you might set up something where you go, oh yeah, now I'm just starting off my day. I haven't had my morning coffee. What about you? Do you drink coffee? That's always a good line. And they may say, yeah, maybe say they don't, whatever the case is. But if they do, you could say something like, yeah, well, who knows? Maybe someday we can get coffee. Someday. It's very harmless because you said someday. So they go, cool. Yeah, maybe. And they leave it at that. Now you continue your conversation. Continue your conversation off things like a good topic is like shows or movies, like I mentioned before. You could say, oh, are you watching these shows? And maybe they'll say yes. Most people are watching something nowadays. So you dive into, oh, what is it you're watching? Then you give a list of what you're watching and really dive into like what you like about what you watch. Really enjoy the conversation. Don't look at it like, I got to get this person. Just enjoy your conversation like you would with one of your boys, one of your friends, because essentially that's what shows you're not thirsty for anything. You're showing like, I can engage with you. I'm giving you my attention, but it's not because I want you. I'm talking about me. I'm talking about the conversation. I'm talking about the things you're interested in and what I'm interested in. We're talking about shows. So you could go on for that for like a long while. Then afterwards, shortly after that, you can then jump into things like, so you could do 2 things. You could, one, say, listen, like, can I call you later? I got to run. Or maybe if you have time, then you'd be like, listen, I'm kind of busy with certain things. It's easier for me to talk on the phone. Can you talk on the phone? And if you don't have their number at that moment, then they may give it to you. And now you could just have a long conversation. I'll get into that in a moment. But if not, you're still in the texting thing, you can say, okay, after that long conversation, talking about shows and interests, maybe you're like, oh, what else are the things are you into? Blah, blah. You start getting into things. You could bring up stuff too. Yeah, this is what I'm doing right now. I'm just trying to uplift myself. I've been working out. I've been taking care of myself. Paint yourself in a positive light. Yeah, I'm just trying to do what I got to do to better myself, this and that. Do things like that in the conversation. Ask them, what about yourself? This and that. You keep the conversation going. Now you revisit the whole, so, yeah, I got to go. And you be the one to kind of close it off. Don't just keep talking for hours if are just, you're not going anywhere with it. But eventually just say, hey, listen, after like maybe a good, like say, even if it was like 10 minutes, 20 minutes going back and forth exchange, then you just like heartily say, listen, I got to go. But hey, do you think we can maybe get that coffee sometime? Now that you've been already talking for a little while, a couple minutes, now you establish that comfort. Now you're revisiting the vague date that you already set up. But now that comfort in between has solidified them being able to say, you know what, now I'm actually down. We said someday, but now that someday we can actually set that date because I've been talking with this person for a while. So at that point, what you do is, you let them know whatever the case is. And if they say yes, then, cool. If they say, well, not right now, I need a little bit more time, cool. Then you can go on to well, maybe we could talk on the phone later and you ask for their number. If they say, no, I'm not ready to give my number, to be honest with you, if you're talking with someone from online and they don't give your number within about maybe 3 to 5 days of you talking to them, stop talking to them. At around the third to fifth day, you press hard. Like, listen, if I can't have your phone number, then I really don't want to talk anymore. If they make a big deal about it, whatever the case is, some of them will now flake and go, they'll turn on you and get angry because that's their way of saying, I never was intending on giving you my phone number. I just want you to be the pen pal. And at that point, you kind of already know what it is and you're able now to pull back. But If they give you the phone number, but obviously you aren't ready for the date yet, you can now go into conversations with them. And essentially what you would do is, once again, talk about all the things that, you really like, your interests, like you would with one of your friends. Talk about things going on in your life. Don't get too detailed, but talk about just things like, yeah, me and my friends, we connected the other day. We went to hang out. Yeah, we started talking about this subject, and talk about maybe things that you were talking about, not in terms of like things that are negative towards women, but maybe a topic that came up. Yeah, what do you think on this? Because we were going back and forth about this, and one of my friends said this. What are your thoughts on that? Blah blah. You just keep having general conversation. Every now and then, too, you could throw in a little flirty gesture, but you know, do not do not press hard about anything sexual. Never talk about me sexual. And all you're really doing is trying to set up a comfort level. So when you say, hey, listen, let's hang out sometime. I'm off this day. And don't be afraid to press when it comes to that. Hey, I'm off on this day. I'm off on Friday. Are you free? Because we can go get something, whatever. And, if they're not, like, oh, what's your schedule like? And if they say what their schedule like, cool. So then that day, then we'll go, maybe I'll meet you on this day. And if they still go, well, I don't know, I got to see, it's your way of not trying to be aggressive for the purpose of that you're trying to overly chase them. You're trying to solidify that either I'm not chasing you, or what is it going to be? Like, I'm not going to sit here and have this whole, like, whatever. I want to figure out concrete. When's my availability? Give it to me. And if you're not down, cool, I'm on to the next. So it's a combination of not being too thirsty, but being assertive to let them know, like, I'm not really playing games. If you're not available, cool. And after that, sometimes you don't even have to outright say it. You just stop talking to them at that point. Cool. Yeah, we'll meet up sometime. If they just say, well, if they say to you, yeah, I'll find a time, or we'll figure something out. You go, cool. You know what? Yeah, we'll find a time. That's okay. And that's it. You let it go. What that means, when they don't give you something concrete and you kind of pressing it and give it to you concrete, at that point, just stop talking to them. That means it's over. Just leave it alone. You're not going to feel as rejected because you didn't have to hear them directly say no, but you have to interpret that as that means no. And the video is dragged on long enough at this point. So I hope that those tips gave you a little bit of insight to get yourself started. Please go practice them, as I said before, when you're outside, or whether you're online, or whatever the case is. And another thing too, real quick, when it comes to your online stuff, make sure you have good photos posted up. They don't have to be the best, most professional, but make sure that they look good. You pose, look in the mirror, figure out what looks good for you. And then also, if you need, have one of your friends take the photo, get a tripod. Don't be the person who's always, your photos are always just you having the phone inside your hand. I get sometimes that's all we could do, but sometimes have a tripod, have it look like, you're getting a picture of yourself where you're not just kind of holding it in your hand. It looks like your hand is extended, getting a photo of you. So, yes. With that being said, you guys take care. Put your comments down below. I'll catch you guys in the next video.